What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Steven Osentoski here of MGoFish, bringing you episode 2 of Recruit Review for the class of 2019. If you missed episode 1, I covered Gabe Newberg, another early enrollee. You can find the link up here, this side. But for episode 2, today we're looking at the wide receiver early enrollee, Mike Sainristil. As far as his high school, Sainristil is in the heart of Don Brown territory in Everett, Massachusetts. He went to Everett High School, which is one of the biggest programs there in the state of Massachusetts. They won back-to-back state championships in Sainristil's sophomore and junior seasons, and they lost in the semis in his senior year, so pretty good school. He was running back, wide receiver, safety, and even their punter, so a little bit of everything. As far as his recruitment, after some late offers from Michigan and Ole Miss in January of 2018, he committed to Virginia Tech in February, a couple weeks after those offers came through. He had an official visit to Michigan in June of 2018, decommitted from Virginia Tech in October, and then committed to Michigan in November after an unofficial visit. So obviously he had an offer from Virginia Tech. He decommitted from there. He also had offers from Boston College, Wisconsin, Rutgers, Southern Miss, North Carolina, and then the late offer from Ole Miss, and a lot of MAC offers in there as well. He did have an unofficial visit to Penn State, but an offer never came through there. Okay, moving on to his ratings and measurements. As far as his stars go, Rivals and 247 both have him as a 3-star, ESPN being the most bold on his skills, giving him a 4th star. Sainristil is seen as an athlete from Rivals and ESPN's point of view. 247 still has him as a cornerback, which we'll get to later in looking at his film, but athlete is what Michigan recruited him as. Rivals and 247 both had him around 50, mid-50s there for his position ranking. ESPN had him as the 25th best athlete in the class. All three services think he's one of the best in Massachusetts. If you're ESPN or 247, they think he's number 1. 247 is the only service that has a national ranking for him at about 500. His composite ranking gives him 3 stars, around 60 for his position, and around 600 nationally. Okay, let's get to scouting. Pretty hard to judge a guy when playing in a not so talent-rich area and not the best competition. Most recruiting services agree on a couple things. His decent speed, so he doesn't have the best top gear speed, but his acceleration and burst is mentioned quite a bit. He's also lauded for his vision, his back pedal, and his hips as a safety prospect. Okay, let's get to his film. There's a lot of film I liked, so I'm going to try to get through this quickly, but we got about 3 minutes of film to work through here. Okay, this first play is kind of on the absurd side. He breaks about 50 tackles here, just a simple screen, but it shows really good balance, good hesitation moves, resiliency. I counted 4 broken tackles, and then he shows a bit of that burst towards the end of this run, but just pretty absurd that he actually scored on that play. Play 2, simple route here, really displays this burst and a couple juke moves after the catch. So you see that catch is just a little hesitation, gets his defenders off balance, and then really bursts through to the end zone. And he does just enough to get defenders off balance, and then he can accelerate through those cuts. That's really his bread and butter. Number 3 here, it's a nice little sit route, and again, these little hesitation moves, spin move to get out to the outside here, and then again, there's that acceleration, and shows off some of that vision on getting across the field and using that decent speed to create some distance. We'll see a couple jet sweeps here. On this one, I really like how patient he is. He's waiting for his blocks to develop, makes 1 or 2 cuts, and then again, has really good vision to get to the outside, takes a good angle, and uses that acceleration to his advantage. Then another one here, again, he really lets his blockers get out there, waits to see what the defenders are doing, and then makes 1 cut. He doesn't extend beyond where he has to. These next 3 plays will kind of show that he can be a downfield threat. Really nice catch on the sideline on this first play. This second one, nothing too special in terms of route, but tipped pass really shows good concentration, then a great juke move there to get past a couple defenders. And this third one might be the most impressive. This is a really well-run route and great athleticism in the air. So notice how he looks inside, gets the defender to bite, steps with his inside foot here, goes up for the pass, and it shows great hands and protection of the ball coming down. So really, really impressive. This play I really like, where he just kind of sits in the zone. Notice the QB scrambling a bit, just sits there, finds an open spot in the zone, makes a nice couple cuts here, and gets into the end zone. Then this final play here shows that he is a willing blocker, just blows up this guy not looking. And these next couple plays on defense now show that he is a willing hitter as well. So We'll get to that if we see him on defense anywhere, but that's important. He had a handful of interceptions of this sort of flavor where he sits in his zone, be watching the quarterback's eyes intently, and then he flips his hip and breaks on the ball based on where the quarterback is looking. So, you know, he's not really on a single route here. He's sitting between two routes, has really good spacing and a really good feel of where he should sit. As soon as he sees the quarterback lining up for the deeper pass here, he breaks on it, positions, high points the ball, and then as you saw, he got to the end zone there. And the second play, I think it's in the state championship game. But again, same sort of deal. He's not really on a guy. He looks at the quarterback, realizes where the ball is going, throws a nice spin move here, and gets into the end zone. So pretty good. He did have a really nice play in the spring game that would technically be a touchdown. Simple angle route here out of the backfield across the middle and shows good burst to break upfield towards the end zone. Okay, so with all that being said, first of all, it's Massachusetts, so take everything with a grain of salt. You know, dial back a little bit. I think it's impressive film, but again, the level of competition can make that seem a little bit better than it might actually be. My positives from watching that film: overall, solid burst, acceleration. I agree on all those fronts. He gets to his top speed much quicker than many other athletes, and that'll suit him very well at an offensive athlete sort of position, wide receiver, slot, jitterbug, jet sweep guy. Great vision on both sides of the ball. He understands spacing on multiple interceptions. He has a good feel of spacing and timing on sort of jumping routes and making a play on the ball that can translate both to the offensive and defensive side. And then I was impressed with his body control. He has really good juke moves. He showed a spin move that was pretty impressive. Hesitation moves. The negatives: speed isn't top notch. You don't see him blowing people away or blowing past people. It's good, and it will likely be fine for what Michigan will ask of him, but he's more of a move the chains kind of guy after making a guy miss rather than watch out in open space. He's likely to get caught at the Big Ten level or Power 5 level. And then his size, you know, being 5'9", 5'10", defensive side of the ball, you'd worry against taller receivers. Areas I need to see more in order to have a proper judgment of him: his hands. Without a lot of camp evaluations, it's hard to judge exactly how consistent his hands are. Similarly, his routes, a lot of the highlights that he had were more get him the ball in space, and then he showed off his athleticism, but it's probably just something that he hasn't worked a whole lot on up until this point. So it's good that he's an early enrollee to build that. Real quick before we get to projection here, if you haven't subscribed, please do. I'll be posting content all summer long, so make sure you don't miss out on that. Leave a comment for who you want to see next. This is only episode 2. I have a lot of recruits to go through, and you guys help determine who will be next in that list. If we can get 50 likes on this video, I'll post 2 episodes this upcoming week. I want to make sure I'm getting them posted quickly, but the more support you guys show, the quicker I'll get these episodes out. Okay, let's move on to projection. So we saw Eddie McDoom get some early run on jet sweeps and some screens. Sainristil appears to be that guy for this class. There's not really any other good options for that kind of offensive weapon, jet sweep maestro kind of guy. My bet is that you see him get snaps early on in the season. You know, he might have 2 or 3 touches per game, and that's enough, honestly. Given the lack of bodies for kind of this slot, you know, offensive weapon, don't think a red shirt is really in the cards there. I think a lot of the things that made him a decent defensive prospect in high school will translate over to the wide receiver position and how Michigan wants to use him. So I think wide receiver, kind of an offensive weapon, will be his role throughout college. Moving on to 2020 onward, the wide receiver room opens up quite a bit. You'll see DPJ, Tariq Black, Grant Perry. A lot of these guys will be moving on. He'll get a lot more opportunity to shine in a slot receiver kind of role. All right, thanks again for watching. Check in later this week for hopefully another episode. And yeah, hope you guys have a great weekend. And as always, go blue.